If you're going through a season of grief right now, I want to share something with you that really helped me when I lost my dad about a month ago. So I truly believe in the power of creativity to help us process emotions. And in today's video, I want to share with you a very simple exercise that requires no artistic skill, no special supplies. It's just simply a way of expressing what you feel inside. Because I don't know about you, but for me, I don't always have words to express what I feel inside. And so doing it this way, it just brings relief and a way to look at the situation a little bit differently. So what you'll need is, I used watercolor paper. So this is just a book with different kinds of art paper that I got from Kmart in New Zealand. So you'll see it's got watercolor paper. I'll actually show you the labels. Watercolor paper, mixed media, sketch paper, and there's a bunch of acrylic paper as well at the back. So I just used a sheet of the watercolor paper, and then I used a plastic dropper for my water, and I simply dropped the water onto the paper any which way that came to mind. You'll see in the video that I'll share. And then I also used some acrylic inks. So this is from Daler and Roney, the FN brand acrylic ink, and I only have two. I only have this, it's like a sort of like a Perusian blue and then slightly more to the green side. So that's what I used, and at the end you'll see me add some metallic watercolor paint. So this is a palette that I got many years ago. I think it was from Spotlight in New Zealand, but you can use absolutely any watercolors or any inks that will be water soluble. And if you don't have that, I'm sure you can even try food coloring. So let's jump into it and I'll show you what I did. I started by covering my workspace with a plastic sheet, and then I simply started adding water to my watercolor paper with a dropper. So you'll see there's no real rhyme or reason in this. I just simply, drew some shapes quite intuitively, and this is quite a raw and vulnerable process. You might actually see some of my tears dropping onto the paper as I was crying and just rubbing the water into the paper. So this process is really not about creating pretty art. It's more about creating space for God to meet us in our grief and just allowing our emotions out on paper just simply through adding colors. So in this section, you'll see me simply dropping a little bit of ink into the water, and you'll see as I do, it just does its own thing. It simply spreads into the water that's already on the paper and it just starts flowing. I personally found this exercise very relaxing, very grounding. And simply just noticing the colors play in the water reminded me of Romans 8, where Paul says, the Spirit helps us in our weakness because we don't always know what to pray. I love that. God doesn't expect perfect prayers from us, and sometimes our tears are the prayer, and sometimes our silence is enough. Next, you'll see me adding some water to the paper with a spritz bottle, so simply spraying it onto the paper and the ink that's already there. And that just creates some extra movement and texture on the paper. So really, this was one of my favorite parts of the process, is just letting go. And it reminded me of the scripture in Lamentations where it says, pour out your heart like water before the Lord. Because really, that is what grief is. It's pouring out what's already inside, what we don't always have words for, what we struggle to convey. And it simply gives us a space to breathe where we do not need to pretend that we're okay. We're not trying to fix it, we're just feeling the feels. I think another beautiful part of this process was just the fact of letting go. So once the ink touches the water, there's no way you can control it. And I think grief is like that too. We want answers, we want things to make sense. But really, sometimes the healing begins the moment we loosen our grip and we just trust God with what we can't understand. So you'll see me adding some metallic watercolor at this stage, and really what I'm doing is just simply filling the paper with color and shapes and sort of letting the paint do its own thing. Psalm 56 is so encouraging because it says that God keeps every one of our tears. I mean, think about it. There's not a single tear of yours that goes unnoticed. He sees them all, He holds them all, and He is our comforter. He holds us too. So my friend, if you are walking through grief today, may this be your invitation. You don't need the right words. You don't need to make something beautiful. Just come as you are and let the colors become your prayer. And trust that God can hold everything that you're carrying. I want to encourage you to simply let your emotions flow onto paper. Don't make it pretty. Just really let your emotions out and don't overthink it. If you don't have acrylic ink, you can do it with watercolor. You can do it with Indian ink. I'm sure if you only have food coloring in your house, that'll also work. So the important thing is to simply allow yourself a space to breathe, to relax, and to allow your nervous system to settle for a little bit. As the page started filling up, I simply added some dots, some lines. I dropped some more ink into some of the places that already had ink, just to make it a little bit darker and to create a more abstract flow. Simply continue as long as you find the process enjoyable. Play around with colors that you hardly ever use, just to see what happens. And I really hope you enjoyed this process and that you feel a little bit calmer, a little bit more grounded, and just know that you're not alone. I'm sending you the biggest hug from New Zealand. Hang in there, and I'll see you in the next one. So I left mine to dry overnight. This was the end result. And then in the next video, which is part 2 of a 3-part series, you'll find those inside our membership community. But in the next one, I'll show you some additional exercises that you can do to help you process. And I just want to remind you that just like grief is a process, I focused on sharing creative activities with you that is also process focused. So you won't be doing everything in one sitting. Oftentimes we'll use the exact same paper that we created in the first exercise, and we'll do 2 or 3 more exercises with that, going a little bit deeper every time. So those 2 exercises you'll find inside our Encounter Creativity membership. You'll find a link below this video, and I hope I'll see you in the next one.